Hi, I'm Jack Durish, and I think I might be defective. I have never met anyone who has inspired me to follow them because of some magical charm they possessed. Now, maybe you have, maybe you haven't. Maybe you're defective like me. Let's see if we can figure this out. I know people who have met President Clinton and President Obama, and they have assured me that these men have charisma. Well, I don't get it. I don't see it, but then I've never met them personally. They tell me that when Bill Clinton would shake your hand, he would take your hand in his right hand, and then he would place his left hand on top of it and look into your eyes and make you feel like you were the most important person in the world to him at that moment. And I've heard pretty much the same thing about President Obama. Well, maybe they're affected by that. I don't know. But I do know this. Neither of them has inspired me in any way as a particularly effective or efficient president or manager or CEO, what have you. And those people who have given me that impression, people like Harry Truman and Ronald Reagan, I never heard them accused of having charisma. Have you? I suppose the closest I ever came to it was in basic combat training in the Army. I arrived at Fort Gordon, Georgia, and we arrived on buses. We had been transported there from Fort Jackson, where we had been processed into the Army and outfitted in our uniforms, and our heads had been shaven off. And when we got off the buses, we were led around the back area of the company buildings, and there was a man standing on a platform, had a big record player up there. He was playing the Ballad of the Green Berets. And it turned out he was himself a Green Beret. He had just returned from Vietnam, and commanding a basic training company was kind of like a vacation for him. Any event, this man, I think I would have followed him to the gates of hell. But I don't know if it was charisma. I think it was that he led by example. Let me give you an example. We were once participating in a parade. When you serve your 20 years or more in the Army and you decide to retire, you get a parade. I don't care what rank you are. You could have made it all the way through the Army as a private, or you could be a general, or anything in between, and you still got your parade. And for this parade, because this was a base that was devoted to training, we had mostly trainees around, and so they wanted one company of trainees. Our company was chosen for the duty. There was also a WAC company. There was still a separate Women's Army Corps in those days. Yes, I'm that old. And then there was an airborne company. And so the three companies were formed together into a battalion, and we stood at attention while the speeches were made and this man received his accolades. And as we were standing there listening, it began to rain. You got to understand, this is really annoying, especially when you're wearing a helmet and the rain was washing down that helmet, and the piece of it here just sort of comes out a little. The water was dripping from that and just brushing against the nose. That gets real annoying real fast. And so there we stood, and everybody was miserable. I looked to both sides quickly, and I could see that the WACs were uncomfortable, the airborne company was uncomfortable, and everybody in my company was uncomfortable, and they were shifting around and sort of, wishing we were anywhere but there at the moment. When all of a sudden a strange thing happened. I saw the man in front of me stiffen up and get in the proper position of attention. What was that about? And I was noticing everybody was doing it in our company. And what it was is Captain Sevcik, standing at the front of the company, was setting an example of how a soldier should act in uncomfortable circumstances. And soon our whole company was standing there, perfect attention, while the WAC company and the airborne company to either side of us were still shuffling around and grumbling and moaning. When finally the order came to pass in review, we all lined up and passed by, eyes right, giving the man his due honor for his service. When the parade was over, word got back to us that the captain had received a letter from the commanding general of the post that we had performed better than even those more experienced soldiers to either side of us. And he let us know that he was proud of us. So yeah, that was an example of someone you would follow. And I think that in many other ways he showed us he was someone that we could follow. Would I ever follow Bill Clinton or Barack Obama anywhere under any conditions? Hell no. Like I said, maybe it's just a defect in my personality. I simply don't have the gene, or whatever it is, that makes me susceptible to magic. I don't see anyone who has divinely conferred power or talent that just makes me feel like I must follow them. I don't know. How do you feel about it? Have you ever met anyone with charisma? Would you follow them to the gates of hell? Are they a politician? I'd like to know.